borrowed the definition from physics, but it works for me with elegance and balance and adjustable elements. And what you're doing is you're adjusting the elements all the time. Did I find everything that I need to do? Can I make predictions about the future, which helps me to make decisions about today? And two of my favorite models are little pictures of the same thing. And the one on the right is much simpler than the one on the left, but it is, in fact, it's the same model, only from a different starting point. And it was the evolution of mathematics in India in a couple of thousand years ago that allowed the more complex model to become the more simple model. So thank you, India, at least for that. I'm sure Copernicus was very grateful in 1500. That's the model of the universe and how the planets rotate around it. I do invite test managers to step out of the box of just doing technical testing and to start to think about how can I bring this learning, how can I bring this thinking, how can I improve the shape of the programs overall, and fit the work that we do into the total change program that's happening. Again, real life example, because that was a nice, fairly comprehensive one against those that I looked. Use it, adapt it, and carry them into your scorecarding. Tech architecture. When you start to think about software testing across platforms, suppliers, again, we've heard quite a lot about that during the course of the day. I only know that when I came to this one, everybody was doing unit testing, and there was no team that was responsible for doing the overall integrated test. And that made a huge difference to this particular program. Again, I'm not teaching anything new. Yeah, you know this, but applying it. What scorecarding does by linking causes and effects is gives you the opportunity to discuss with the program director, with the sponsors, with the stakeholders, gives you the opportunity to direct the consequences if we do not complete testing to a sufficiently high standard to where we can quality assure not only the unit, but the whole environment. Okay? And that it doesn't happen is a puzzle to me, but it keeps me in work. So, diagrams tell 1,000 stories. That I've already covered. Business controlled software, essential when you get complex. Integrating into risk. Make a friend of the risk manager. They're the ones that can bring the bad news. They quite like to bring the bad news. So you can make a friend of the risk manager. Get him, her, to work through these kinds of analysis and bring the messages in. But make it part of the metrics and the reporting that you're doing out of the testing. I've seen test teams that they didn't like SharePoint, which the rest of the organization was using and the development team was using. They had this wonderful system brought in from another organization, just like Nita said, running on an Access database, and put all their bugs and their thoughts, and everything was beautifully slice and dice, and you could make cubes out of all the things they were finding, but it was impossible to communicate that in any way to the stakeholders and to the guys that were going to be doing the fixing. So that for me is knowledge that is wasted when it's locked up in that kind of way. I'd rather do something simple like a warboard that people can understand than the most sophisticated and detailed set that tells you why things are going to go wrong. The goal of scorecarding in the leadership stream here, it's to take control of the present and future performance. And the test manager's dilemma that I put up at the start of the slides, this is my solution. It's worked for me over 20 years and in a lot of organizations. And a picture is better than 1,000 words, as long as you have the underpinning, which is okay. The rest of the slides, not sure what happened then. Can you hear me without the, okay, I'll speak louder. A picture paints 1,000 words. Get the right metrics, present it simply, and have that dialogue. Which is why we're talking about strategy and not test detailing, which some of the other streams are talking about. The rest of the material is generic. It's there for completeness. So some checklists around what makes a good metric, and we had some illustrations, nice illustrations about how do you do a little sample from satisfied to dissatisfied. I said I didn't like chocolate cake, so it was a real sacrifice at lunchtime for me to have the chocolate, but I forced myself. No, I said it just I could see that nobody else was putting their hand up. So, generic stuff, I'll just skip through. Nothing you don't know, but just a reminder, come back to it, apply it, and use it. You may have some different acronyms for SMART. That's okay, as long as you have everybody in the organization is using it. And it's telling you where are we against the target. Nita very neatly covered that one, so I don't have to go over it in detail. Who are your stakeholders? Are you thinking about all of them? What makes for good acceptance criteria? That my test, which I'm using all the time that I'm writing, I'm coming back to that. Did the criteria I met? One of the first things I feel when I walk into an organization is, do they have these characteristics? And if they don't, what do we have to do to change that? There are some conclusions from this part. And my talk, if anything, is a call to arms, yeah, like Gandalf. So he did so much as a guide, taking the guys through with a roadmap. But once you have your roadmap, you have to use it, and the call to arms is start to make a difference to the statistics and the metrics on software failures that we had some very spectacular examples, but there are 1,000,001 that are happening every day in small things. And if you get involved in a big one, and that can be the end of the organization. That bank will not survive. They will go. So, contact details will be on the slides. The white paper will be available. Thanks. Questions, comments? We have 5 minutes, I guess. Oh, no, we have 10.
Excuse me.
Sure.
You mentioned about predicting the future.
Yes.
I have a question. Does it mean predicting the outcome of the project, or in the example you gave, making payments on time?
Yes.
Would you be able to predict what level of, what percentage of the payments would be made on time with the processes you follow? Is that what you can predict?
In that particular instance, yes. And
so could you please explain how it could be done?
The interesting part is the knowledge was in the team in that case. It's just nobody ever brought the knowledge out of the team members and put it into a systematic way where you could look at it and say, if we change this, then, that brings it down by 10 days. Here is 15 locked up in this. And the solutions they came up with were never to do offline processing during the day, but just to use your agents to talk to people and handle real cases. And anything that could be done offline was outsourced to people who had previous employees. In that case, typically was quite a high degree of ladies working in that organization. So all those with families were invited, do you want to do some homework? Because, we can ship out. So they were kitted out with access from home. And there was another, and so piece by piece, you bring down, and bring down, and bring down until you meet the target.
Quantify and see how much you could reduce it. Could you predict, quantify
very closely.
Okay.
When you have, and the clue is not to have too many people because then it becomes chaos, but you want 6, 8 people with knowledge and bring them together and facilitate and then just bring the knowledge out, capture it, systematize it and use it. Okay? That's the process. Thank you. Good question.
Any other questions?
Hello.
Hello.
So when we are doing this modeling or when we are doing a trend or a balance card in here,
Yes.
we are talking about qualitative numbers in here, but there are many
Sometimes.
qualitative things which doesn't get reflected into numbers. So when we are putting a trend on when we are presenting those numbers, how do we account for this qualitative influence that comes in?
Okay, we had a little illustration earlier. Were you in when Rex did his illustration about chocolate cake?
No, I wasn't here.
He did a very nice illustration where he turned whether you like chocolate cake or whether you dislike chocolate cake, he turned that into a metric for us. And sometimes qualitative is good enough. Are you feeling okay about this? And if you have somebody with experience, sometimes it's okay to take their view, because to try to measure it will cost far more than the value, and bring you a spurious number. But wherever you can, I do try to be quantitative, so I try to bring it to numbers. Where that's not economical, then you find some metrics. I can give you some clues as to how to turn soft measures into things which you can bring into criteria and measures. Okay, we'll take that offline if you don't mind, because I think that's into the detail. But you will get an answer to that. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Then
I hope
enjoy your cup of tea.
so. I hope
You've earned it.
we are at the end of this session, and I would like to thank John for giving this wonderful session and giving an insight on balance scorecard and testing. So right now we are moving to our tea coffee break and the networking session. This is the last of such in this day, and just a small announce. As you all know, we have this ITL game happening here. So those who are playing ITL game, it's happening in corner 2, that is from 4:30 to 5:30. Okay, 30 minutes will be your examination. Everything is written to you, like given to you. So I just want to know how many of you are playing ITL game, those who are here. Okay, pretty good number. So you can quickly go have your tea, coffee, then revise yourself and go to your ITL game, which is going to start in another half an hour. All the best. Thank you. So welcome back. So this is the last session. So this is the last session for this day, and hope you all know that ITL test is happening on the other side, and we have around 72 teams participating in that session, almost 144 people. Okay, so this is the last session. I would like to welcome Paul Gerard on stage, And he's going to take some interesting topic, which is, will the test leaders stand up? Definitely a topic which is aligned to our leadership. And I have one announcement for you people. There is this, you got tomorrow's agenda, right? So in that, the keynote is not mentioned, but the keynote will start by sharp 9:30. As you've seen today, it will definitely start by sharp 9:30. So we request all of you to be here by sharp 9:30. Mr. Julian Harty will be there, who will be taking the keynote, and it will start by sharp 9:30, and 9:30 till 10:30 will be the keynote, then 10:30 to 11 o'clock will be the tea coffee break, and 11 o'clock all the parallel session will start. And tomorrow we have a panel discussion where, again, Paul Gerard will be the moderator, and we have various people from various industries who will be there as a panel member here. And we have an award ceremony at the end of the day. I hope everyone will be there and will be enjoying this. Thank you. I would like to welcome Paul on stage. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you. Am I on? Okay. Ooh, that light. There. I want to say good morning, but it's not. My body clock is still 4.5 hours out of sync. So, right. What's this talk about? This talk is a combination, and it's kind of evolving, like most talks that people on conference circuits do. They evolve over time. This one is, will the test leaders stand up? And what I want to talk about is really what's happening out there insofar as the industry drivers that are changing what I believe and what I am beginning to experience is happening in companies who take testing and quality seriously. And it's not necessarily increasing the number of testers that are required, which is not necessarily bad news, but it's news you need to take account of. And so the thrust of the talk is to say, if you are put under pressure to change the way you work, you can either be agiled, you can have it done to you, or you can take the lead and make it happen. And really that's what the talk is about. Okay? So I want to talk about a methodological shift. It's quite a tricky one to say. About the way that the world seems to be changing out there in terms of methodologies. And I won't go into that in any more detail yet. I'm going to make some 5-year predictions, backdated to 2011. And I want to make some suggestions on where those predictions are now, because I think they were fairly reasonable. And I'm beginning to experience change in the way that one or two people I've met here have also experienced change. It seems to be happening. Now, my experience is almost entirely in UK and Europe. Okay, so I have no experience of the Indian market. So you tell me whether I'm a mile away or getting close. I don't know. We'll see. Some doors close, and other doors open. Okay, so we have to be aware about what the opportunities are, and really that's what I'm trying to suggest. This is a point of opportunity, not a time to panic and go, disaster, woe is me. And if things are changing, we need some leadership. And really, I'm not going to talk about leadership very much. I'm going to be kind of try and being a bit more light-hearted about it. But it will help. It must help if you can take the lead. Okay? I should also say that most of my network, in terms of the people I know in the UK and Europe, are test managers. I tend to talk to test managers almost endlessly, rather than testers, because we run a test management forum and so on. But that's the network I work in. So a lot of my experience is coming through them. Okay? So it's not all speculation. Okay, so let's go. What do I mean by this? A methodological shift. We've all experienced, or most